looking forward to this report because I drove up to Nimbin about 4 or 5 years ago. It's up past beautiful Lismore.
Just about an hour's drive from Byron Bay.
Apart from the little town, which looked as though it had a new lease of life,
Right.
I couldn't really see much of the alternative living because they're all hidden out in the bush, apparently.
Exactly. They want to get away from people like you in cars coming up with them.
Now, you were there at the beginning, weren't you?
Yes, this footage is taken of the festival that they had there in 1973.
Right.
And people ought to remember that the whole ideals of the 60s at this time all over the world had kind of were collapsing down. The flower children were catching diseases, they were carrying guns, there was the Charles Manson affair.
Yeah.
And people on the whole were beginning to get very depressed or going back into straight culture, very confused. And 2 university students in Australia drove round the North Coast to find a perfect little town where they would just invite counterculture people from all over the world and all the people in Australia just to come and celebrate all the ideals of the 60s. And they...
In the 70s, everything was up for grabs. University students were intelligent and politically active. We were questioning the conservative way of life. The National Student Union called our cultural foundation Aquarius. We were very keen to explore everything to do with youth culture.
I came here with the purpose of having an enjoyable time and sort of going to a lot of things that all at once, sort of cultural activities, poetry, plays.
That festival in 1971 was half political and half arts. But the political side of it was what really got out of hand. On day 4, we were all sitting around on the grounds outside the Chifley Library, just smoking a joint, listening to the music, and all of a sudden, 20, 30 cops in full riot gear, shields, batons raised, and they just flew into the audience and just started bashing people for no reason at all. And there was people bleeding and bruised and, screaming and running, and this is only a year after the 4 students were killed in the Kent State University riots in America. They were just shot by the National Guard. We didn't think for a moment that anything like that would happen there at ANU.
We can't hear you! We don't want to hear you!
There was a lot of anger. We all formed what they called the Day of Rage.
Whenever you get students together at this time, it's like, who do we protest against? What's the target?
It was Vietnam, and particularly conscription, that put the real sting into protest.
Let's get into the rally and let's give them hell there today.
That all of us who were at that stage 20 years old were due to be called up for national service. Everybody lived with that as a thing that was hanging over your head.
There's possibly an escalation of that. It wouldn't take much to drop a nuclear bomb on Hanoi. It was terrifying. We decided to rise up against this in as many ways as we possibly could, politically, socially, and I guess spiritually as well. And that's what happened.
Inside the Australian Union of Students in Melbourne, there was a cultural arm called the Aquarius Foundation. When Graham and I both applied for the jobs, Graham as festival director and me as the Aquarius Foundation director, we were quite upfront in terms of, if you choose us, we're going to go in a completely radical and different direction.
That's the idea I put to Johnny. We could do this better. If we took it off the campus, we wouldn't have arguments with authority. We could make art, we could be our own culture. Let's see what we're really about.
Part and parcel of the counterculture was looking to the future. The early messages were coming through about global warming and the threats to the environment. We're heading for trouble here. Unless we change direction, we are going to be in really big trouble.
The main purpose of the festival was to set up a radical student society. We thought it was going to be fantastic.
Mullumbimby, because we heard there were hippies back to the landers out there, and they might welcome. No, they did not welcome the idea of students coming to town and organising a hippie festival. But I got directed instead to this guy called Paul Joseph. And he was in Upper Main Arms Valley. It was a banana shed. We drive up, it's incredible, until we can't drive anymore. We can see the shed up there. We walk on, and Paul appears. He's so handsome. It's long hair. It's like Jesus Christ Superstar is Paul.
People came to see me who worked for Australian Union of Students, and they told me they had a $100,000 budget to have a festival.
We tell him the idea, he said, exactly what I've been thinking. And he rolls up his mat, his yoga mat, puts it in the car and comes with us.
And so my deal with them was, well, we buy land to have the festival on, and we could create an ongoing community of equals.
We had decided it had to be in the Northern Rivers area because it was May, it was going to be cold at night. We put ads in the paper.
But at a certain stage, we definitely had drawn a blank. I was travelling with Col James, the architecture tutor from the University of Sydney. We were heading by a hired car to Casino Airport to fly back to Sydney, and we got lost. And at sunset, we drove into this sleepy little village of Nimbin.
And I remember when we first sighted the Nimbin Rocks, it was such a powerful impact that everybody just said, you know, wow, like this has to be a sight. When we came into the town, or the village, it was almost a mint-condition, derelict village.
You could search for a century and not find a nicer little town, but aesthetics didn't save it from the Dairy Depression, and in the late 60s, it took a beating almost to bankruptcy.
There was a dog asleep in the middle of the main road. There was an old guy in a rocker rocking backwards and forwards in his sleep. And Col and I looked almost like that eureka moment. Let's recycle the town.
Graham was president of the Students' Union. He'd edited the Runker, and he was very active. He was very driven.
You're on the 3DR morning show, and it's 29 1/4 minutes after 9 o'clock.
My father was a truck driver, working class, but I was the first of the clan to go to university. I was doing engineering, but I didn't go to university first. I went from high school to Royal Military College. So when I got to university in '64, I'm thinking, what am I going to do with all this army stuff that I've got inside? And I thought, no, I'll join the university squadron, because they promised to train. You'd graduate, and then they take you off, and you get a flyer's license. So I did the application and turned up at the squadron meeting to be greeted by the CO of the squadron saying, oh, we haven't accepted you into the squadron, but a better offer is coming, he tells me. I said, what's this? That night or the next night, two guys in suits at my parents' place saying, we like your attitude. Why don't you come and do some work to counter the subversion that's happening in the universities and elsewhere? And I thought, well, sounds like a good offer. I suppose I can suck it and see it. My father saying, don't do it, don't do it. I thought, all right. Anyway, so I signed up to be an informer at the university. They wanted me to go to meetings and write reports.
We were aware that ASIO had been spying on us when we were involved in the anti-Vietnam movement, and they continued to spy on us in the women's movement. They were worried about social unrest.
Well, one of the things that happens when you go to meetings and write reports is you listen more deeply.
People are more important than property.
If the police commit violence, it's law and order. If the students do it, it's anarchy.
I became radicalised. Thanks to ASIO, I listened to these speakers and came away wanting to make change.
Graham and I toured all over both the university campuses and the country communes movement.
We were finding the tribe to carry this forward. Who can we get excited to come?
We were trying to identify anyone that we thought was doing anything interesting. That might be an author, it might be someone running a Holworth kitchen, it might be an alternative theatre group or a musician. They were all people who were living out the counterculture. Graham and I would get up and address them on the idea behind the festival.
You bring it, you're it.
There's no program.
You are the festival.
The end, 3/4 would walk out the door muttering 60s hippie bullshit, and the remaining 5 or 6 would say, sounds great, what do you want us to do and when do we start?
And when people made these commitments, they were made with heart. Amazing things would come from this. We have 5 months to organise the festival, but we still need permission from the town. I remember putting leaflets, the invitation to the meeting, in the top of the milk cans coming in from the dairy farms. I spoke to anyone who had any authority. Anglican vicar, the butcher, the baker, the publicans.
In their chats to us was they would come through, they would pay rental for farm properties, everything. So of course to have that was sounding good. They would paint the shops, which were very, very shabby and sad. And there was money going to come into the town. Okay, you're in business, yeah, sounds interesting.
Recycle the village, recycle the town was the slogan.
This hippie movement has come to Nimbin and they've selected that they want to do their thing here. And I'm not altogether against them coming, because if they didn't come here, they'd go somewhere else.
Young people were leaving the town, they were seeking work elsewhere, and the opportunity that we saw, let's put young people back into it. Let's bring the young people back. We had support from a policeman of the town, Bob Marsh.
Bob Marsh, basically a typical country cop. Soon after Graham and I arrived in the town, we met up with him, explained what we wanted to do.
He found us the place to stay. It was a house without doors. Frangipani tree out the front, long grass. So we walked through the house to the back steps, looked down, and there in the backyard was a perfect circle of gold-top mushrooms. This is the place, we said, we're meant to be. So in preparation for the meeting, I think it was happening that night, we cooked up a stew with the mushrooms, yeah? Then took our talent to town. It was funny.
The population of the town was about 300 at that stage. Something like 400 people attended the meeting.
The hall was packed with lots of townspeople and the local residents. There was some apprehension and a lot of questions.
Bob Marsh wrote to the community meeting, "We have little, if anything, to lose, and certainly nothing to fear, as it is a chance in a lifetime, and if the chance is lost, I feel sure that we will live to regret the day." And voted unanimously to host the festival. I think there are a few dollar signs flashing in people's eyes as to how many hamburgers and beers, etc. they'd be able to sell to all these students.
There was one vote against it. There was a woman who didn't take well to me, and she asked the question, will there be any drugs? What could I say?
time, the national leader of the Australian Labor Party, Mr. Gough Whitlam.
An Australian Labor government. We will abolish conscription forthwith. We will abolish fees at universities and colleges of advanced education. And we'll make a start right away.
When Gough was elected, he set up the Australia Council, and the Aquarius Foundation got a grant from them.
For more than 2 months, festival workers have laboured on logistical support for an expected 7,000 visitors. The festival is as much about toilets as anything. At least that's true for Graham Dunstan, the chief guru of Aquarius.
Well, right from the beginning, we've set out to create an anti-consumer festival with the idea that the festival is what people make it. And right now, my contribution is drains. So the festival's about drains.
There was a solid group of architecture students from New South Wales and from Sydney who got involved in the planning and in the construction of the facilities for the festival. We all went up on a big bus. We arrived at Nimbin in the middle of the night and they were very keen.
One of our main tasks, of course, was to work out how to create a clean campsite, and we designed 6, 7, 8 toilet blocks in the countryside, which were drop toilets with tin cans on top, and then we had privacy screens, which weren't very private because most of the toilets were designed so they all faced into the middle, into each other.
What was revolutionary, I think, was that the pit toilets were communal and they were sexless too. People sitting in a circle all having a crap and having a good time.
Unisexual toilets, you know, like this was a great spiritual breakthrough for some people.
I was living in a share house in Adelaide and heard about Nimbin Aquarius Festival. And having converted to hippiedom a year earlier, I was completely intrigued because as hippies we were understanding the system is going to collapse eventually and we've got to know how to cope and live and survive on the ground. We drove 6 days. I wanted to be there early because I wanted to be involved with the setting up of the festival. The 20 kilometres into Nimbin was magic. This was a whole town painted just for hippies. It was just by hippies for hippies. And I thought, oh, this is home.
Colours of the buildings was changing dramatically into rainbows, which was a real slap in the eye. There was disappointment and agitation to see something so that you could never have imagined. They were coming up to free themselves of whatever they were expected to do. It was like a revolution. You could accept it because, oh, this is coming, and then they'll be gone.
One of the great things about Nimbin, if you translate it into our local language, it's home. The Bundjalung have a lot of stories, and in those stories, there is future telling as well, you know. Stories of the white man or the Dagai that would come to our lands.
Where I grew up, there were no Aboriginals. I had no introduction, no concept of how Aboriginals lived in Australia. The idea of inviting Aboriginals to be part of the Aquarius Festival. That was Bar. That was his inspiration.
Bar Stones, his family, they were very much a Black Power family from South Africa.
He was part Khoisan and Bantu. Khoisan is Kalahari Bushman. I was impressed by the sound of this man who was so focused on Indigenous culture.
So Bar Stone took this on as his personal mission. He travelled far, speaking on behalf of the festival.
In 1973, when they're putting the Aquarius Festival together, they feel we don't have any traditional dances of what they assumed was Aboriginal. So they go to Yalanji, Cookie Yalanji lands, rainforest people from far north Queensland, Mossman, as well as Mornington Island.
One evening, this man arrived in the doorway directly opposite me, and he was the most magnificent being I'd ever seen to date. That was Bakal. And literally 5 minutes later, he was sitting with me, holding my hand, and he said to me, "It's good to be with you at last, Tina." I wasn't in love with him, but I had the greatest admiration for him. He had such charisma. I thought, well, okay, I'll go with this. I gave up fear when I got to Nimbin, and we were married within 3 weeks.
Days before the festival, he came running up to me, telling me, "Johnny, we have to move the festival," which was a total impossibility at that point in time.
It was suggested that there'd been a massacre in the valley, and as a consequence of this, nothing the white guys produced would prosper. Naturally, I was pretty concerned about this rumour.
We were naive whites coming into a place with very little understanding and, didn't know whether we needed a witch doctor or what we needed, but we knew we needed something from the Aborigines to lift the spell.
I wanted to find an elder I can talk to about this curse. There were no Aboriginal citizens in Nimbin. They'd been moved out of Nimbin a long time ago and were at the missions, former missions at Gundarimba and places like that.
There was an Australian belief that an Aboriginal looked a certain way. Many Bundjalung people have different colours, but we're all blackfellas because we're all connected to our kinship lines through our grandmothers. We just kept to ourselves in a way, and white people didn't see us. And they didn't want to see us either. We were a problem. We were relegated to the fringes of our country.
I went first to Gundarimba to ask, and they said, Woodenbong, Uncle Lyle. They pointed me to an apartment. It was at the edge of town. Knocked on the door. Was taken in by how ragged the curtains were, and then the door opened and this guy appeared. And he was raving, in a bad state. I tried the curse on him. I tried to get some response. He wasn't biting. It didn't have any meaning to him, right? So I came back to Nimbin to announce there was no curse, but people didn't want to believe that. They wanted to believe the curse.
Bar's response was to go to the local Indigenous people around Nimbin, Cabbage Tree Island, Murwillumbah, places like that, and they agreed, yes, they would come to the festival.
I got a call from Bar saying we're going to have a meeting to welcome these people.
Okay, Lily.
You haven't got it on yet.
Yeah.
Will you hold for a minute? Half a minute.
Okay.
Uncle Lyle, he was a bit on the outskirts for a while, and people used to think he was this old drunk, but he's speaking language, and he actually wasn't. He was this senior lawman, and he inherited an awful lot.
Lyle Roberts said something along the lines of, back in the olden days when people came from another country into our country, there would have been a welcome to country. Let's do one of those for the people coming to Nimbin.
Ladies and gentlemen, this evening we come as sisters and brothers.
It was dusk, and Uncle Lyle Roberts called out to us. We piled out. We were all big-eyed and didn't know what was going to happen.
The men were divided from the women and sent off to different sides while they prepared the campfire and the site.
We sat opposite each other on the ground, and Uncle Lyle Roberts raised his voice and said,
This evening, I'm singing you a Wara Wara, the Bunjalang song.
Uncle Lyle Roberts says, this is now the beginning of change. And with the new millennium coming, this is a start for reconciliation, and our relationships can improve. We can be together.
Something happened which was radical and new.
It was a lovely coming together, both of the white tribe and the black tribes.
After all the preparation, the festival started. And we seemed to be in the hands of it's Nimbin magic.
We rocked up and, you know, words can't describe the Aquarius Festival. It was magical. I was this 17-year-old, very naive street kid from Sydney, and we're travelling to visit the parents of one of our travelling friends who were dairy farmers. And they told us of these strange people that were setting up a concert at Nimbin down the road. So, of course, we came for a sticky. What we met was just from another world.
Walking through Nimbin, people arriving in town all day. It's just such an exciting place to be.
We arrived, went down to the camping fields, somewhere down on the flats near the river, and set up our bamboo pole and plastic tent. It was organised chaos. There were people building geodesic domes, there were groups gathered round campfires, playing guitars, and there were quite a few people in the nude.
The pub was quite a good vantage point for the locals to sit there and watch all these young people up and down and around and, you know, a bit more skimpy, and they were setting up in the showground for the showers, bamboo structures, you know, pretty basic, all open air.
Bamboo was a saviour of our festival. We used it for the saunas. Viv's sauna was quite a complicated sauna. She had the little wood fire section, create the steam and water running off, and then the plastic dome that you walked in and got saunaed. And you went at that into a little palatial Clark's rubber swimming pool for a plunge into the cool water.
Graham, this is the official opening day of the Nimbin Festival. You've been working on it for a long time now, so how do you feel?
If we don't pollute the creek,
We don't have major outbreaks of diseases. We don't have fights and those sorts of things. If it comes together, the community, which is the feeling in the town right now, it's really soft and gentle. And you go down and sit at someone's campfire and talk to them. They're very open, sort of thing. Well, that's what it's about.
We set up camp, we put this mattress in the tree stump, our suitcase beside it, and that's where we went at night to sleep. And then we'd wake up to omming and music and campfires and feeds, and it never stopped till you hit the pillow at night. My first daughter was conceived in that tree stump, enough information, and it was pretty amazing.
The organiser did things that they thought would bring out people's full potential as individuals, and then that would merge into a sort of an ideal society.
If you can get together in large numbers, of 5,000, and exist, gentleness and love, and it works, well, Christ, it's a sign that we may well survive a century.
Philip Petit, he was looking so marvellous. He had his little top hat on. Somehow or another, he'd gotten one of these big unicycles.
It was quite interesting to be parachuted at 20 years old in a completely other world. I came from my own world and I landed in another planet, the world of the hippies. And then I started performing. I started playing a comic character way with the crowd.
Philippe Petit was like amazing. He strung up his wire and he did some tightrope walking.
The joy of being on the wire, it's a field of creativity. It's the best place on earth to be, above the earth.
Roughly 10,000 people were camped all over the fields. So if you went around the campsites, there were a lot of people who had some sort of philosophical binding together. In the early days of the festival, there were a group of men that came to town, stood out like a sore thumb. These gentlemen were confronted just in terms of who are you and what are you doing here? And their reply rather enigmatically was, you'll find out.
I didn't give it much attention. Lots of crazies were coming to town. We had a festival to run.
Paul Joseph would start the day by going from campfire to campfire, singing the May the long time sun shine upon you, all love surround you. And within a little while he would have hundreds of followers, and they would go from campsite to campsite, waking up the camp.
John, are you happy with the way things are going up here at the moment?
It's simply the best way to live here. If you come here and try and live by yourself, get up your own tent, build your own fire, get your own water, it's a heavy scene. If you do it with a group of people, it's a light scene. And that's really the lesson that the whole of the thing is teaching all of us.
Okay, you're recording now, right? Right, now hit it twice.
It's a video thing.
You got little wheels turning.
Little wheels turning where?
inside the recorder.
Oh yeah, that's recording.
Video movement was taking off. The whole idea evolved lending people porta packs.
Morning.
G'day. One of the good aspects of television for the masses be to get people actually making their own television to actually be communicating, you know, to one another.
I helped you down the creek bank the other day.
Oh, it's very difficult to recognise you through a lens. Oh, yes.
We were experimenting with all different ways to use this new medium because it was new to us. We started off working with feedback ideas and creating patterns and looping back videos of people's experiences and through a kind of creative filter.
The technology was very new and experimental. What came out of that was the idea of wiring up Nimbin for closed-circuit television. It's the first time that it happened to an Australian town.
I mean, it was really quite beautiful because we actually had people who'd come to the festival to have fun, taking away just a little tiny camera, you know, and shooting videotape, coming back to us, and we just sort of had a narrow casting all this stuff down a cable into the town. And people would just be standing around awestruck watching television that they'd made hours before.
Mary Martin, a radical underground performer, agreed to be filmed giving birth.
We were watching people, and this sounds so hippie, but they were flowering in the setting of the nature that they were now part of. They're relaxed, they're with like-minded people, there's no agenda, it's all about restoring the right to live your life on your terms. And that was a big catchphrase from Johnny Allen, reclaiming the right to live your life without the indoctrinated social expectations.
There was a whole movement going into the bush or the forest and taking off your clothes. We were challenging the status quo. Nudity was sort of seen as a freedom.
People were incredibly unashamed of their bodies.
It was a sexy festival. There were a lot of coming together. Right? Young people full of hormones, right? Swimming naked in the creek. This was what it was about.
My God, where do you look, you know? And all these people are walking around very, you know, oh, we're used to all this is our norm.
There was a day when I walked from the showground. We shed our clothes and walked right across the festival field to Richard Neville's camp. It's a sense of liberation to walk naked through a field and not feel any shame or attract undue alarm.
There was a lot of nudity, but you know what? I didn't get laid in that whole festival. I tried really hard, but it didn't happen, so the free love didn't happen for me.
Met the father of my son. We met in the shower, naked. We just started chatting. He was part of the Bush video group, not actually doing the filming, but he was doing the cooking. We were married and we stayed together on and off, more off than on for about 2 or 3 years.
There was a sexual element to it. There was some people who spent quite a lot of time in the saunas, more than just to get clean.
I was in a relationship that was an open relationship, and I took advantage of that. I had lots of different sexual partners, and I was happy with that.
You know, it was okay to have sex. The sexual revolution was all around us. So naturally enough, it was part of the Nimbin Aquarius Festival.
It was just the thing that was done because that was part of this new freedom. If you knew anyone well enough, there was expected that you would sleep with them. And I think consequently people had a lot of partners, whether they wanted to or not.
It didn't take long to work out that that backfired for women, and it was all about men having as much free sex without any commitment.
I'll do anything for free.
And I think for us young women at the time, it was quite confusing because you were sort of part of the scene and wanted to be part of this changing thing. But it was quite a loaded time.
In terms of political consciousness for women and new roles that they might take up in this new society, there was an indulgence in the idea of liberation, of taking off your clothes, liberation of dancing naked. The men's gaze was still the same as it had been.
This is the nude dance. She doesn't have any clothes.
Feminism began criticising sexism generally in society. We started saying, hey, what about us? We're not going to just sleep with you and make you cups of tea and look after you. We want something too.
It was savage. The oncoming of feminism was savage for visible, active males like me. It wasn't on feminist principles that the festival was organised. So it's like the last hurrah of the patriarch, producing a spectacular festival.
Johnny Allen had called for artists who would do things, so we decided to put on a concert. It was all very haphazard and there was nothing booked there. No one got paid. It was a do-it-yourself festival. We just put the word out to people who wanted to play at the Nimbin Hall. So much fun. Fabulous Robin Laurie, she dressed up as Carmen Miranda. You know, I thought, fantastic. The whole Aquarius movement called on people to join together in some sort of fun, even love.
I am thy star. I am the light of the second heaven.
It was poetic. I was drawn to this guru figure, this charming, naked, older guru figure. I was very much interested in yoga, meditation. I and nearly everyone else felt we are making a big difference. The world will change. This is the beginning of a new movement, and it'll go everywhere. And, you know, you really felt that this was, you're in the beginning of something that was going to be very big and transformational.
Spiritual values were starting to really blossom in people.
We just lost faith in politics as a means to bring about social change, and so started to look at consciousness development as a way of changing yourself and changing society.
I'm quite worried about my children and the environment that they are in while the Aquarius are here. My daughter went up to a friend's place and they went to the park, and one of the Aquarius girls, she started speaking on Hinduism, Buddhism and all the other isms.
There were many different religious communities. I couldn't even name all of them. The Hare Krishnas were always hugely visible because they made a point of singing and dancing.
They were chanting all night, right? They were doing the festival a service. A lot of people didn't think it was a service. Anyway, it led to this reaction.
We were sitting around our campfire early in the morning, and there was a group of people came and it was singing and dancing and came up to our fire, and they had a gumboot on a stick. And the guy started, "Does Krishna keep your feet dry in the rain?" "No," everyone would say. "Who keeps your feet dry in the rain?" "Hare Gumboot. Hare Gumboot." We probably had 200-300 people going around the whole thing singing, "Hare Gumboot."
There were people talking. We can't just be out here dancing around to flutes and burning incense. How can we actually make this real? Like, there has to be something solid come out of this.
We can admit the third group, we just divide up geographically there. So, Nimbin area, other rural areas, and urban areas.
Where are the rural areas going to meet?
It might be a better idea for all of us to move up to the oval where we can split into groups and reform as the various groups.
After Nimbin, what? Right. It was impossible to imagine, but something had to come from it.
I'm from the Alternative Health Centre, and when we get back to Sydney, I think we're going to try and set up a cooperative. You may be interested in buying land up here.
Okay, so we need a coordination center for all this sort of stuff to happen.
This big circle happened, and it was an opportunity for everybody to have a say. And that was quite extraordinary.
Well, the people who actually are interested in buying land, if they've got anything from, say, a penny to $1,000, why don't they arrange to meet somewhere specific straight after?
Richard, how are you involved in the North Coast umbrella?
I'm just sort of quite interested in this area because it's one of the sort of few occasions that the Alternative Society has leapt out of the textbooks and into actually sowing seeds in fields.
But there's so much potential here now that all it needs is just drawing together and then making the application.
People were having a conversation a bit about what do we want it to be? How should we work together?
It needn't be a fixed sort of structure. There could be just a sort of a general commune village.
We wanted to build community. We'd have gardens, and it'd be ecological.
I'd like to have this as my power centre, my energy centre.
And it'd be do-yourself architecture.
The advantage of a system like the food scene and building scene, it allows for a lot of changes in ideals which are undoubtedly going to occur in the future.
They're recognised in those meetings. There's a possibility here of people building from the ground up communities that work in a different way.
It's calling it a cooperative. Now, in Israel, they call them land trusts. If you just think of a name, well, it'll help people. I would suggest something like Nimbin Regional Land Trust or something like that.
We wanted a community of peace. All the values expounded by the festival in one way, and lots of music, performance, creativity.
apparently a lot of the Aquarius is going to stay on.
Is there nothing about them at all that you admire? Their relaxed attitude to life and their seeming happiness anyway?
Well, maybe I'm square, but apparently they're on drugs. They're openly admitting that. And maybe that's where you get all your laughs from.
When we organised meetings, the joint would be passed first, right? We'd never had a meeting we weren't stoned. I described it as the sacrament of the festival.
We'd had an agreement with the local police prior to the festival. As long as we could keep order and control, they would stay out of it. They knew that people were going to smoke dope, etc., etc.
Let's not forget the mushrooms, magic mushrooms. Right?
Waking up one morning in my little tent, out of a cow pad on the side of the tent, there was a couple of gold-top mushrooms had come up. And my friend and I both looked at them and said, yep, why not? Just took them and, you know, had quite an amazing time with it. It was really beautiful.
It was very much that philosophical idea that when you took drugs, especially psychedelics, you got onto a totally different level of the universe. And this joined you up to people, and people who were also part of that. There was a unity between you. You'd come to the edges of the universe. And you could tell people who had been part of that. There was a sort of an instant connection somehow.
This was the counterculture. We were setting ourselves apart from what had gone before.
We are the gods now. We're now not looking to external gods from ancient times. We are the gods, and the responsibility is ours. Our future and our culture and the earth are in our hands.
Word circulated that there were police, infiltrators, undercover and all that. Moving through, so be careful.
We were sitting there when some young chap came running up and saying, help, we need help, we need help. Something's happening over there, there's a fight or something going on.
Shut up! What are the charges? Where are the police today? What's the charges?
So we all rushed over and people were yelling out, what's going on? Stop this, you know, what's happening? And then they said, oh, we're police, we're plainclothes detectives, we're arresting this man for possession of drugs.
I reckon they'll let him go.
It was huge. If you had to pinpoint a time where things actually changed, it was at that moment.
We heard a roar of voices, and cresting over the hill came hundreds of festival attendees.
People were trying to release the guy that had been busted, and there was someone jumping on the police van.
Climbed up on top of the police cars and they were jumping up and down, smashing the cars in.
Shit hit the fan. Student radicals rioted, overturned the police vehicle, stole the policeman's hat and gun.
I am the officer in charge of this unit. The officer's pistol has been stolen.
Or fell out.
And handcuffs cut on a prisoner which he had.
Yes, that's right.
Another detective got out and he had a loudspeaker and he was saying,
People are all here to represent Aquarius and enjoy the festival.
So we are. Yeah, without
This is all a fad.
You are the people that's got to live it down.
All the things, this counterculture thing is all rubbish. All of this thing about freedom and art and everything is rubbish. We'll rule forever.
We will be going on forever. And from tomorrow, there will be 500 police here.
And the crowd went completely berserk. And even more people attacked the police and they climbed on top of the van and they jumped up and down.
$6 in that on that. That's all. And we went around between the three and
The response of the government to the headlines about hippies bashing cops was to send in the 21st Division, which was the equivalent of today's tactical response squad. These were the heavies. They were kind of bashers. They fit, strong, punchy guys.
And they literally lined the street. With the riot squad down one side of the street and the student radicals on the other side, throwing verbal insults at one another. A lot of the student radicals were busting a bit for a fight with the cops.
Shit, we should be able to get organised and do something. Hey, what's going on?
Graham and I, we were dragged into the police station trying to find a solution.
And we sat in the office and argued, don't go down into the fields tonight. There will be a riot and there are children down there, you know. It's a disaster, don't do it. And they agreed they wouldn't go into the field and we would not misbehave on the streets. And when we stepped out of that police station, I reckon there were 60 uniformed police waiting in the yard. We had a meeting in the field the next morning, and it was great division within the festival between the left-wing anti-war activists who wanted to take on the cops and the hippies who were saying, we came here for peace, let's make the peace.
Peace, brothers, peace. Cool it, man, cool it. No bad vibes. We're here to smoke dope, man, and groove with nature.
I'm so pissed off. A sense of betrayal from the cops. And then the radicals calling for a fight to undo the principles, the ideals of the festival.
There was a divide between true revolutionaries and hippie mystics. They felt the authorities and the police were going to fight till the very end.
We had excellent communications with the cops. We'd had meetings. The police said, don't create trouble for us. Keep them off the streets. Don't embarrass us.
What about that we demand an apology from Graham Dunstan on this question?
If Graham was convinced he was thinking he was doing us a service, the only thing that upset me, we're not naive, that we don't believe police when they tell us things, that we don't believe people that we don't trust, that we don't feel a part of our community.
Forget about politics. You wake up yourself, because the police department, without them, mate, this will be a very sick bloody world.
It is a very, very sick world.
Yeah?
We've got the police department.
We had this big meeting at the stage on the festival ground, and we spoke for not reacting to the provocation, holding the peace, you know.
It was all lessons that people had learned about new ways of living. This new idea that you could live in a field with 1,000 people and no problem, no hassle. It was really the archetypal utopian existence.
Who would ever have dreamed what unfolded here? Every single one of us felt changed.
We gave ourselves permission to question, to explore, and to navigate and run with alternatives. Peace and love, you know? It's out there.
We carried the crown in this. We were able to avert the attack on the festival without violence. Maintaining the peace, creating the peace was our mission, and we'd done it. When people went away from the festival was over, what had happened to us? We were changed, you know, we were illuminated. Some magic had touched our souls.
What did I say about the festival? That it's been the best possible success it could be in the best of ways. Yeah. And the most surprising of ways too. Yeah, right.
We were a counterculture, new possibilities that expanded before us. And we were affirmed.
Butterflies in the sun.
You're in the process of starting a land co-op up at Nimbin, which grew out of the festival at Nimbin.
That's right. The festival was a gathering of people, a lot of people who were concerned about the earth as their home, and they wanted to do something consciously to.
All the hillsides were all covered in rainforest, Gondwana rainforest.
It's at the end of its own road in a secluded valley. It's just a perfect setting for a large community.
Felt like we could make the dream come true.
The first year or so, when people were breaking the ground on Tunnable Falls, it rained incredibly. Couldn't get in or out of our properties because of the rain, and people did it pretty tough.
Didn't have electricity, it was very run down. No clear glass, no open doors. Normal people, including my parents, would shake their head and go, "What are you doing? Why are you living without the amenities that are available to you? Why are you doing this?"
It rained on and off for most of 73, and then it rained on into 74. It was a mad scramble to try and grow enough food.
I remember Black Allen, an Aboriginal singer, catching a snake and hanging the snake on the fence, and people coming up and taking away snake meat because that was the best thing they had to eat.
But it was an adventure. We felt like we were pioneers. We just did it.
There were communes starting to sprout up everywhere. There was Darmananda at the back of the Shannon, and there was Rob Road behind Nimbin, and there was Bodie Farm up Wallace Road.
20 of us found a Bodhi farm, and we believed in the perfectibility of humankind. We worked together building our houses. We ate together, we lived together.
We got cows, we had no fences, we had no bales, we had nothing. We could never round them up. We had chooks, we had turkeys, we had geese, you name it, and we were just totally unprepared. The local farmers must have laughed behind their hands at us because we knew nothing.
Paul and I, both of us individually and both of us together, were very committed and very involved in everything. But a lot of the men were not really pulling their weight.
I'm working from the minute I get up to the minute I go to bed. I'm building. I mean, I was pregnant, carting water up the hills of Tuntable, slashing lantana till I dropped the baby, growing food, just that surviving. But our experiences in our life was so rich.
Nobody had money. Moving in was one thing. We had to create the first true social democratic community in our history.
In those days, you couldn't get the dole or parent support or anything like that. The best crop was marijuana. It just grew so ferociously up here. And I think most people were growing pot.
Living on Tuntable, we were growing dope. And, well, my partner was.
There was really a black market marijuana economy going on up here for quite a long time.
And there was the market side of marijuana. It provided people with income and allowed them to lift themselves out of poverty.
And then, of course, they started the raids as soon as we were all sort of established here, and they fly in helicopters. And then things started getting a little bit more ugly because people were under pressure. People had to be more secretive. They started ripping off each other's crops.
People got easy money, so they dismissed the idealism of the Aquarian dreams as irrelevant. What the real world's about is making money, mate, and doing deals. And then we had the problem of Nimbin being too open.
People that were on the fringe in mainstream were drawn to Nimbin because of that tolerance, which was a very good thing to do.
You know, the rejects, the walking wounded who arrived in town, this was the New Age, and the New Age would look after people like them. It's one of the things that Nimbin inherited from Aquarius.
Community altruism. We were doing it, you know, we hadn't invented it, but we'd given ourselves permission to run with that. And that's from Aquarius, you know, where would any of us be without Aquarius?
I think that was the saddest part, that there was absolutely no comprehension of what was to come, the alternative society, and that was not ever imagined. It's just never gone back to anything like a country village. It's definitely the Aquarius village.
Their experience has roamed from life and school on the commune to a brief time at the state school in Nimbin.
Well, I don't like it because they tease you and things like that.
Why would they tease you?
Because you live on a commune and you're a hippie. They reckon that you don't have baths or anything like that, or you don't wash yourself.
Right. If they call you a hippie, what do you call them?
Straight.
I can remember just after the Aquarius Festival, we came home from school and we were talking about these hippies. Oh my goodness, Dad got so upset with us. And he said, you of all people, I could not believe you would call someone a label when you've been called so many names. These aren't people to be denigrated. In fact, they're going to change your world because they don't want to talk at you. They actually want to sit with us and talk with us.
We were hippies, and being embedded in nature was a big part of the glory of the life that we were creating.
This was in an area where the water holes are so significant and the rainforest just provides so much.
One day we went to the Channon Market and a neighbour from Terania Creek Road got up on the stage and he appealed for help, saying that the Forestry Commission was coming in the next day to log the rainforest and wanted help to stop it.
Every generation, our ancient lands have been desecrated. We remember the cedar cutters, and now here we were again.
It was Uncle Law's job to keep the old ways alive. He was like tiny, tiny, wizened old man. And he walked into the State Forest Office in Casino with these two young hippies on either side of him. And Uncle Law banged his fist on the counter. He said, "Get out of my forest!" That was the authority for everything that followed.
Last Friday's confrontation between police and demonstrators may have been inconclusive, but this time there's just no stopping the bulldozer. It's just marching straight ahead, ignoring demonstrators.
We were the first people to stand in front of bulldozers.
Come on, leave it on, look out.
You don't know who people really are until you're in a dire situation. And we had our backs against the wall. Paul just was completely dedicated.
We're here to clear the land. We're working for the man, and all we understand.
We were seen as idiots. We were seen as tree huggers and radical ratbags.
We created a camp at the edge of the forest.
We were singing and enjoying ourselves and dancing. It was the Aquarius Festival over again, right? We were very good at this.
Where is the rescue? Ducking! You told me I was...
Being on that line between humanity and wild nature with the idea of stopping this desecration that was taking place was a spiritually defining moment in my life.
They couldn't break our spirit. They had huge numbers. They rostered cops on from all over.
The stakes kept getting higher.
The police were aggressive. They were psyched up. And they pushed through our lines.
But to everyone's amazement, we just kept stepping up.
We were brave. Whoa, we were brave.
And we won. The first successful defence of rainforest ever, anywhere.
The story of the Dugai came true with Terania Creek. And if anything came out of Aquarius, it's the solidarity of saving country.
I was at a rally back in the day. Thousands of people protesting the Vietnam War. Everyone was focused on the speakers on stage, so I looked around. It was like a light bulb went off. I realized the people are the protest. All of us together occupying public space. We can change the world.
You're a capable fellas. Able to carry a pole between. They look best upright.
A brighter light is shining inside you, inside me. There's a light under